MAGA chuds are still desperately trying to find evidence of widespread election fraud from 2020. No, it is nearly 22 now. And look, there have been voter fraud cases for sure. I've talked about those on the show. Interestingly enough, all of them seem to have been done by Trump supporters. So I guess you could say they know a lot about fraud. They know many things about fraud. And they're very, very knowledgeable. Everybody asks them about fraud because they're always doing the fraud. Okay, well, yet of course, since there seem to be experts on voter fraud because they're doing the voter fraud, they can't seem to find evidence to back up that it's widespread voter fraud on behalf of the Democrats. That seems to have been happening. I mean, at least until what now? Oh, well, apparently one MAGA Wisconsin sheriff says, no, we've got the evidence. We got the evidence. Oh, okay. Well, I'm very, very interested in this. In fact, he's so confident that he held a news conference on Thursday to unveil what he billed as proof of statewide election fraud. Oh, great. Here we go. He said this. This is, let's see, Republican Racine County Sheriff Christopher Schmaling. Here's what he said. Election statute was in fact not just broken, but shattered by members of the Wisconsin Election Commission. Okay, so, well, that's compelling. Very compelling. So he is accusing the entire Wisconsin Elections Commission of shattering election statute and giving the state barely to Joe Biden. By the way, let me just note, too, that in Racine County, Trump actually did win the vote, 51-47, but barely lost the state. It was a real squeaker. So now, as a result, Schmaling said, I did a very in-depth, extensive investigation into widespread voter fraud. So now, he apparently last year got a tip. He got a tip, just a tip. And he said, I'm going to look into it. Okay, all right. So that was about a year ago. So he looked into it. And the result? Nothing. No criminal charges. They're not locking anybody up. Nothing. So let me give you the details on this. Now, sheriff's investigators said one resident of Ridgewood Care Facility in Mount Pleasant likely voted illegally in the November 2020 election against a court order declaring the resident incompetent to vote. Schmaling's office also alleged that 7 additional residents of the same nursing home voted despite evidence of cognitive decline. Oh no! Cognitive decline. Okay, so how is this evidence of voter fraud or even widespread voter fraud? I mean, that is the question here. I mean, again, this is not even illegal unless there were court orders that were finding those other people incompetent. So now apparently there might have been one person that they deemed incompetent and therefore their vote didn't count. Oh my God, widespread voter fraud, here it is. Wait, no. See, here's the thing. I know the mindset already. When I was reading this, I was thinking, well, of course they would think somebody who may or may not have voted for Biden, which I guess they assume, but we don't know for sure. They assume, well, you must be mentally incompetent. Okay, well, again, we don't even know who they voted for, so that's real weird. So now, Schmaling went on to claim, no, see what happened in the nursing home, that one time in that one nursing home in that one town, that is proof, evidence that there is a statewide problem. This is happening everywhere, all the nursing homes. Wow! That's your evidence. That's your evidence. Pathetic. Pathetic. So now, Wisconsin Elections Commission Chairwoman Ann Jacobs said the sheriff's allegations are untrue and accused him of stirring up baseless questions after election officials worked hard to make sure nursing home residents could vote during the pandemic. You see, nursing homes full of elderly people who are more susceptible, of course, to coronavirus. And during the election, coronavirus, as it still is a problem. It is a problem. And so, yes, you want to make sure to set up ways that these people can vote safely without risk of contracting coronavirus, which is much more deadly towards people who are elderly. That seems like common sense. But for them, no, not common sense. Wonderful. So bad. Now, so here's what Jacobs said. The law is very clear that just because a child or a relative feels that someone is not allowed to vote, they still have a right to vote. We've got to be careful about trampling on people's civil liberties, and the right to vote is one of our most cherished civil liberties. Again, I can see it right now. Hey, I think Grandpa and Grandma is a little slow. They shouldn't be allowed to vote because they might not vote for Trump. I could see that. I could definitely see that. So that said, Schmaling puts out some, pretty serious allegations and says, I got proof of voter fraud, even though it's not really proof of widespread voter fraud. Now, are we at all surprised? No, of course not. We shouldn't be. Because this guy is a total clown. But what Schmaling is doing now is interesting. So now he is asking Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul, a Democrat, to launch his own investigation into widespread voter fraud after his investigation turned up nothing that is actionable, no criminal charges or anything. Well, now why would you do that? Now Kaul responded by saying, look, the Department of Justice would be available to assist with any case involving credible evidence of voter fraud. But then noted that no charges were filed as a result of Schmaling's investigation, meaning, of course, okay, if you bring me credible evidence, we'll look at it. But more than happy to. And you know what? That's the right thing to do. If there is actual credible evidence of voter fraud, yes, we should absolutely look into it. I'd like to know. I want to see it. I want to see it. I want to stop it. That said, they had nothing. He had nothing. And so now the Journal Sentinel reported the situation quickly descended into a political fight with Wisconsin election commissioners denying they did anything wrong and Republican lawmakers calling for them to just quit their jobs. Just quit. So, we can replace you with people who will play ball. Oh, does everybody see the game? This is the game. That's not an obvious giveaway as to what they actually want you to do or want to happen. For all the people who don't play ball to quit their jobs so they can get replaced by other people who are sympathetic to basically saying, oh, yes, we found or manufactured evidence of voter fraud so that we can, of course, institute measures that will ensure that only Republicans win in the future. Like, we know. So now, when Kaul eventually says, no, I'm going to not, or, he says, I'm not going to do this investigation. Okay, because we don't have evidence. They're going to turn around, the Republicans, and say, well, see, the Democrats know they did the fraud, and they're not going to investigate. So understand that this is a lose-lose situation in this case, because what you're dealing with is not rational, good faith people. These people are not rational. They're not acting in good faith. They're insane. The Republican Party is insane. You cannot deal with crazy people. 60% of the Republican base says overturn the election. This is not something that is going to go away. These people have been radicalized by the likes of Tucker Carlson, Donald Trump, Newsmax, OAN, the Pillow Guy, and members of Congress. The entire party has gone off a cliff. It is completely unsalvageable at this point. Now, Devin Remiker, the interim director of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, said the Racine County Sheriff's Department has been wasting taxpayer money in an attempt to rehash discredited claims about the 2020 election results. There weren't any charges filed or any even suggested. The press conference didn't shed light on any election fraud. but did reveal the Racine County Sheriff's Department may have broken the law during their own farce of an investigation. Now, what that is, I don't know. I would be curious to see, but here's the thing. On all this nonsense election fraud stuff, I think we need to start getting tough. Because here's the thing. This is not normal. This is not healthy. This is not a good democracy. Okay? The Republican Party, understand, is so incredibly radicalized now that many of them are calling for violence. Charlie Kirk recently, interviewed or talked to somebody at one of his rallies, and like, when do we get the guns? When do we get the guns? Because they are convinced through conspiracy theories that they had the election stolen from them. So they're full of conspiracy theorists and violent insurrectionists, and yet they're somehow still treated by the Democrats, by the way, and this is the most frustrating thing, by the National Democratic Party. They're still treating the Republicans as if they're a legitimate political party. Even with the people with the likes of Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene in the ranks. And they're spouting insane things. I think we need to think about ways that we can actually protect democracy from the crazies that have taken over. And unfortunately, I don't see what's happening here. The J6 rioters are being treated with kids' gloves. I don't see why this continues to happen, why they're not being treated more seriously for what they've done. And as a result of them not being treated seriously, I'm afraid that the right is going to continue to go further and further, get more violent, and they're already violent, and end up doing something incredibly awful, which would be too late to stop. I hope I am wrong, and I hope that, people get back to their senses, but knowing what I know, seeing what I've seen, I don't think it's going to get any better. I think it's going to get way worse before it gets better. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.